Hello everyone, and welcome to Portal's Accelerating Social Business Success webinar. My name is Peter Greaves, and I lead the Collaboration Centre of Excellence at Portal, a technology and business consulting company specialising in collaboration, customer experience, analytics and mobile. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to be here today, and if you're listening on the replay, thanks for your attention as well. We're here at the Royal Exchange in London with two great guest speakers who can share their insight and experience on the topic of accelerating social business success. If you're interested in social business, your first questions might well be, what's the tangible benefits of improved collaboration? How can I make a strong business case for it? It's not enough these days to say everyone else is doing it, and in our experience, most businesses that start a social business journey do so with clear business benefits in mind. Our aims today are to share and discuss a specific case study, hear a strategic overview from a leading vendor of enterprise social collaboration software, and hopefully provide some useful insight for you. So to the agenda. After some speaker introductions, we'll hear in our Focus on Strategy section from Stuart McRae of IBM on collaboration in the post-recession workplace, key trends and best practices for the new world of work. And then in our customer story, Andy Harrod of Parexel Informatics will describe how social collaboration is being used by Parexel to assist in product development and delivery. After that, I'll chair a panel discussion on preparing a business case for social collaboration, which is always an interesting topic. Then we'll have an open Q&A forum, so please submit any questions at any time during this webinar in the side panel of the webinar itself and pick them up then. Finally, we'll end with a list of useful resources and links that may help you as you embark on your collaboration journey. So, to some speaker introductions. Stuart McRae joins us from IBM, where he is an executive collaboration evangelist. He speaks widely at public events and provides strategic briefings for executives and C-level teams about what other organizations are doing to improve workforce effectiveness. He also runs workshops with executives to identify how IBM can help them to be successful with their digital strategy. We also have Andy Harrod. Andy is the VP Platform Engineering and Chief Architect of Parexel Informatics. He leads the design and delivery of their MyTrials software as a service solution for clinical trials. And he heads up a global team of over 70 architects and engineers working in the USA, England, and India. Finally, to me, Head of Collaboration at Portal. I spent 20 years working with customers on collaboration and knowledge management challenges, joining Portal last year to lead the collaboration services team. So to recap, what we hope to discuss and provide some insight into today is how enterprise collaboration tools can be used to create a culture of innovation, improve employee engagement and team performance, and directly affect business KPIs. So we'll try and bring together the specific experience that Andy can talk about with Parexel's innovative Teeth platform with some wider industry insight and a vendor perspective from Stuart. Now I'd like to hand over to Stuart.
Thanks, Pete. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for listening today. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the industry trends, what we see happening in the collaboration market, and how that market is changing. And I think, Pete's going to give me control so I can move the slides. Let's see if that works. Yeah, great. So we see four key trends happening today around the way businesses and how their employees to work. First is the fact that customers are becoming increasingly influential on social media. They're having conversations about your brand, your products, your services, irrespective really of whether you're participating in those conversations or not. So there's a straight choice for most companies. Do you ignore that, carry on with traditional marketing and hope everything's okay, or do you engage in those conversations? The challenges that organizations find, especially marketing teams find when they start to engage, is that the customers don't just want to have conversations about marketing messages. They want to discuss the strengths and weaknesses of the products, talk about the problems they have with them, talk about issues with services, etc. And it's really the rest of the organization, the other employees, who need to get engaged in those conversations to provide the appropriate answers and feedback and to learn from what customers are saying, to lead customers need for a social collaboration culture within organizations. The second is the fact that those same employees are out at home. They're using Skype to have video conferences with their friends. They're using Facebook to collaborate with relatives around the world. They're using LinkedIn to connect to people they used to work with or people they were at school with even. And they can find people, communicate with people, interact with people, have group conversations very easily. And when they come into the workplace, if all they're given is an email client and the ability to make telephone calls, they really feel that they're at a significant disadvantage. They're starting to understand and activate within organizations where if you want to retain your best talent, you need to give them good collaboration tools to let them build relationships, conversations, communities in order to work more effectively. The third area is mobile. Everybody expects to be online on their social networks 24 hours a day, but social networking is primarily a mobile activity anyway. More than half of Facebook's revenue, advertising revenue, comes from mobiles. An incredibly high proportion of Twitter activity starts from mobile devices. People want to make comments, interact with their colleagues, to find the right colleague and talk to them when they're walking down the street or when they're in with their customer, not wait until they get back to the office to follow up on things. That's a 20th century way of working today. We are connected whenever we're working. We should be able to interact across the whole company immediately. And then finally, running business is getting more and more complex. Few organizations can run entirely on their own employees. The value proposition you present to your customers, your customers' perception of your brand and your product is based on the complete interaction with you, your partners, your delivery partners, your channel partners, the maybe services partners you have, other organizations you deal with. Somebody ordering something off a website with a particular brand doesn't care when the product doesn't turn up, if that's because the delivery company was slow or because the supplier didn't have any in stock or because the web hosting service that the supplier was running lost that particular transaction. The only thing they care about is that particular vendor sold them something and didn't deliver. So to get the entire ecosystem of partners working, you need to collaborate beyond the edge of the boundary in today's world. So these trends that we've talked about are driven by trends that are happening from a technology perspective, underpinning the evolution of business today. So the social technology I've talked about, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc., those sorts of community building, collaborative discussion forums can be brought in-house and available on-premise as well. Mobile is becoming a key driver for empowering employees. Cloud is the delivery mechanism for all these services, and analytics really underpins everything. It looks at everything that's going on and gives you insights into what's happening. You're not going to read the thousands of tweets that happen every day and mention your company, but analytics should surface the ones you really need to know about. So social businesses, in IBM's terminology, are businesses that harness all of those technologies to increase their employees' efficiency by building internal and external relationships, hence delighting their customers, managing their talent, promoting and rewarding the right people, improving the way the processes work and the products they create, and services offerings, and innovating, doing things better, moving faster than their competition, and therefore succeeding in the marketplace with better business results. And there is significant evidence that shows that this sort of technology can deliver better results. McKinsey did a survey recently estimating an increase in employee productivity of 20 to 25% for organizations that invest in advanced collaboration technology. And amongst IBM customers, you have some examples here. I'll just pick out a couple. Cemex, bringing new products to market in a third of the time it used to take because they could leverage their worldwide expertise as they needed it immediately on tap and bring that energy, excitement, and skill base to bear on moving the current stage of the product development life cycle forward. Or BCC increasing the sales manager by putting a network of employees behind them together to help them sell more effectively. So what we're really talking about here is thinking about the core processes, the way you run your business, the set of people involved in that process, and how having those people work more closely together to build trusted relationships with them so they do exactly the part they need to do in the process, they understand the overall end goal, and they move forward. But also using those key employees' relationships with the rest of your company to bring other skills to bear and other capabilities to bear as and when you need them. You don't have to assign an expert to a particular project. They can be just pulled in when that expertise is needed and then leave the project immediately afterwards. The social form of collaboration gives them all of the information they need to get up to speed, to rapidly engage, assist, and then disengage again, making your organization much more agile and able to better execute. If you think about any organization, we're organized in silos, separate parts of the organization or separate divisions in different countries or just separate job functions. And social collaboration is about enabling collaboration across those boundaries. We don't want to take the boundaries away. They're there for very good reasons of grouping skills or managing budgets or whatever. But we want to allow the employee to find the person they need to work with wherever they are, share information with them when they need to. So a couple of simple examples of how life is different for an employee in a social business. And the first is this idea of having public conversations. Instead of me sending an email to Pete, for example, saying, hey, how about having a seminar on best workplace practices as we're moving into a post-recession era, I might post that message on his board so that he can read it and respond to me, but also everybody else can see it. And people who have ideas and want to contribute ideas can immediately be aware of it and take part in the conversation and enrich the topic and maybe bring up the idea of a business, of a customer who could present in such a webinar. And we can bring a larger group of people to bear very quickly without having to write documents and circulate them or write emails and forward them and have them all forwarded on and all sorts of asynchronous information coming in. The conversation happens in one thread, in one place, and is visible to everybody, or if it's on a confidential topic, to everybody involved in a particular project, but still open within that team. This allows you to spread ideas, learning, information, and knowledge across the company very effectively. The key, though, is not that these separate communities and discussions area and projects exist, but to me as a user, I get one aggregated activity stream which tells me about everything that's happening in all the projects I'm involved with. That's one stream to which we can apply analytics to surface the content I need to act on, to surface the content that's most interesting to me. It's one activity stream to look at in the morning instead of multiple, but which I can then divide by, hey, just show me the stuff to do with this project, or just show me the stuff that came from this person, so that I can dive into a particular conversation I need to have. And finally, and most importantly, it's an activity stream that I access from my mobile device, from my tablet when I'm sitting in a meeting, or from my mobile phone, my smartphone when I'm sitting on the train into the office, so that I can get up to speed with what happened overnight before I hit my desk. As we all share this information, we are implicitly sharing our knowledge. We're sharing the platform, what we're working on, what we're expert in, what we're delivering content in, and what we talk about a lot. And the platform can use that for the next generation of expertise location to allow you to find the person you need who really understands the maybe the statistical aspect of a particular big data project that's going on. You can very quickly get to the single person you need to talk to on this topic and then communicate with them. And when IBM built this app ourselves for internal use, we provided to customers now, but we built it originally internally, we built the smartphone version first, because the time you want to find an expert is when you're with a customer, when you're having an idea walking down the street. It's not something you wait to do when you're back in the office. Of course, it's now available in the browser and tablets, etc. as well. So you think about those sorts of capabilities and putting them together. It's about linking people up across the organization. The chart at the top from Gartner shows how organizations tend to create internal boundaries between departments. Information doesn't flow well. Information doesn't flow well vertically either. The idea that key knowledge could flow up an organization and down again simply doesn't work, because good news flows up an organization very well. Bad news flows down an organization, but it doesn't go. Neither works well the other way. So you just create silos in an organization. You need to surface ideas peer-to-peer across, not just the employee that had an idea idea for an innovation perhaps, but the 3 other people who need to bring their skills to bear to make that idea real. You need to engage the users of a business process continuously into making that process better, into working better, more effectively, delivering more better results for less. So all forms of collaboration support better business, and a collaboration platform that's a separate silo, like some service you buy into on the internet where people can go and collaborate, but it's completely separate from their business processes, from their content management systems, from their team spaces, isn't going to work because it's just a separate talking shop. What you need is a place which is tightly bound to the way you are doing your processes, the way you're doing. Great example is ideation. You take a business process and wrap a community around it, the people participating in it, then you can start an ideas space. So this idea of innovation doesn't become an innovation day you do once a year, and the people who happen to be available go and have the ideas that happen to strike them that day. Innovation is whenever somebody sees something that could be better, they go and create an entry in an ideation to say, hey, we should do this. Other people comment on it, tear it to pieces, agree with it, improve it. Then you can vote on it, and you can start to put the top ones into practice through creating actual actionable activities, all within the social collaboration platform. So I've talked you through some examples of how social collaboration can make business better. There's a white paper here available you can download, which goes through half a dozen or so key use cases that we've seen over and over again in customers, and explains the ROI and the value that has been delivered in those spaces by using a social collaboration platform. I'd like to just end up with a couple of customer examples. So TD Bank implemented their social collaboration platform in Canada with an objective of improving communication, reducing email, shortening the time it took to get employees up to speed and skill, reducing unnecessary meetings. But they pretty quickly realized that if they wanted a real demonstrable value proposition, a reason to be doing this, it was about changing something that was fundamental to their business. And they focused very much on customer service. How do we improve customer service? By creating these communities around things called wow moments, where employees go and say, hey, this aspect of our service really delighted this customer. The customer was very happy because of this. And those best practices can spread across the organization. And the employees can start to have discussions about the things which aren't working well with customers and what can be done to fix them and make the customers more satisfied. Another example, very much about engagement, is this article from Biomaterial Science, and you can follow the link later to find it on Forbes magazine. But it talks, Daru, who rolled this out in Bio, talks about that, ironically, the big benefit of the project is it got people talking to each other. Because over the years, people had started sending emails. They send an email, it's not really a discussion. They just send the email and assume someone will read it. If it doesn't get read, then that was the end of the story, it died out. Whereas in a social engagement platform, you make a comment to someone, you get feedback from them. If you don't get feedback from them, then you can immediately see that follow up on it. Somebody else might come in and comment, or the person's manager might see the fact that they haven't responded and intervene and assign someone else to look after it if they're busy or on vacation or something. So you just get conversations to happen, and conversations are the way we make businesses better. So that's the summary of what I wanted to cover. Thank you. We're glad to have more of a discussion in the Q&A afterwards, but I'll hand back to Pete now.
Thank you very much, Stuart, for that interesting view of trends and your shared experience of how those two interesting case studies as organisations are responding. Just as a reminder, we'll handle your questions in the forum, but you can submit them at any time in the side panel of the webinar, and we'll pick them up later. Now, I'd like to turn to our customer story. I'd like to ask Andy Harris to tell us about Parexel's collaboration network piece. Over to you, Andy.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I think it's worth explaining a little bit about who Parexel are, because not everybody's always heard of us. So I've a few interesting points that allow me to put some context to it. We work in clinical trials, and we are a one of the world's largest research organisations. And as you can see from here, we work with the top 50 pharmaceutical companies, and of the 200 top-selling drugs, 95% of them we work, and we work across 100 countries. And the nice, interesting bit in the middle of this slide explains that we have a single shared technology platform. So although we specialise as a clinical research organisation, we are the only one that has a dedicated technology function. And I'm not talking for building internal systems, I'm talking about building commercial technology for running clinical trials. And so collaborating in that way of developing that software is very important, and that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about today. We can see from here when we talk about global, is not only do we run trials globally, but we actually develop our software globally. Now this representing how we run our trials and our global reach. But our whole culture is we are, although American-based, headquarters based out of Boston, we have 15,000 employees worldwide. We have over 3,000 employees working in technology. So not a traditional technology name, because we specialize in particular industry, but you get a feel of scale that we're doing here. That single technology platform is called MyTrials, and the way that we develop our product is we have acquired or built a number of core technologies for running trials. I'm sorry for the abbreviations in the little picture, but I'll try and explain what they are. Like everybody else in the IT industry, you know, why use words when abbreviations will do? We focus on patients, so our EDC system is all around capturing data about our patients and the scientific data. When we say CHMS, this is an ERP system for clinical trials. We have our own, it's called Impact, built from scratch, used in the top 10 pharmaceutical companies, #1 in the world. Our Artisan system is around randomization and drug supply, so it's a big logistics system, as well as a lot of business logic about how to randomize patients, so who gets what drugs. We're the leading medical imaging company, particularly specializing in certain therapeutical areas. We do a lot of work with direct-to-patient, which is growing, of course, with the mobile market. Wearable technology is coming, so there's a lot of work in that area. And then we do lots of things around innovation. So data-driven monitoring is a large new theme in the industry. We're using predictive analytics to drive quality, improve quality and time to market for clinical trials. Now all our products are core products and sell in their own right, and our history, and are going forward with individual roadmaps. Our platform, our MyTrials platform, has pulled all them together. So they all sit on a single platform now. We have a single log-on capability as a web channel. It's built as a SaaS platform, and it provides a number of key features. You can see from the list that we're talking around portal and collaboration, which obviously we're going to talk a bit about today. A lot about integration, enterprise reporting analytics, and a great deal around identity management. So it's a whole suite of products, and that's what we build, and it's commercial software. So we're a regulated industry, so our structures and our strategy is very formal. We have to do some very tight procedures to develop that software and validate that software. So being able to get our team to have more informal discussions and collaborations is very key for us, and that's why we introduced PEACE, which I want to talk about now. So PEACE is another abbreviation. One thing that we do is we don't just develop all our software ourselves. We use partners, people like Portal Partnership. We use key vendors, IBM, TIBCO, Oracle, Microsoft, companies that I'm sure you all use yourselves. And to develop our software, we need to get us working outside of our organization as well as across our organization. So apart from globally getting our teams to work, we have to work with our partners, our vendors, to deliver engineering projects and IT projects in a very regulated industry. So I mentioned on the previous one about an ecosystem, and this is absolutely the crux of why we built PEACE. And I'll go over it a couple of times because it's so important to us. The dark blue are areas that are live and working today. The light blues are areas that we're looking at the moment. So by an ecosystem towards the dark blue, we focused on building the ecosystem about how we deliver our projects and our software to our business quicker. We're not going to operate all our people ourselves, although we have a large number of FTEs. We do subcontractor projects. We also use body shops in India to give us extra capacity, and those sort of areas around what we call delivery partners, people who can supply us expertise and skills quickly on the ground to become part of our team. And we want to embrace those people and make them feel part of our organisation and our delivery. So we want to give them a tooling and to help with that. Vendors are obviously key. We've done a lot of work with IBM and a number of other vendors in getting them to use Peace and to share and work on projects and share information with us. And then knowledge partners are more specialists. It could be a contractor who's an expert in a particular field, or it could be a small organisation that have got in-depth knowledge in a particular area around, say, analytics or around statistical analysis that we need, who can come in and share their information and make it visible to people who they are and how people can get in touch with them. The lighter blue areas are new areas and they're quite interesting areas for us. Because we build our own software on our own platform, we also partner with other companies to add their capabilities and integrate that into our platform. The whole platform is designed for integration and hard. So we could have somebody who writes a particular piece of software. In the clinical trials market, there's a system called eTMF, it had another acronym, which is primarily a very advanced document management and case management system, specifically for capturing the documents for a clinical trial. We may, rather than build that capability ourselves, we may partner with a third party who can provide that and integrate it in. That would fall under the MyTrials software partners. The MyTrials service partners could be other CROs who want to use MyTrials to run clinical trials themselves rather than build their own platform. So a small clinical research organisation, and we would brand MyTrials for them specifically as a SaaS platform. So that falls into that category. So there's lots of people that all need to work together as we develop our software. And there's a number of key areas that we wanted to get in place with these. Collaboration, I mean, I'm sure you're all aware and seen from Stuart's slides what's happening in the collaboration area, and you'll see some points that Stuart was making in these slides and what we've done, and it's coming through. But general collaboration, just getting people to work in an informal way, not having to send emails, not always having to pick up phone calls, because people in different time zones, they can ask questions, they can share things, very important. We've also gone for a cloud-based approach. So we've not put this in our data centers, we've put this in the cloud from day one, mainly because we've got third parties wanting to access that, and we don't want to go through the VPN nightmare that you get when you try to get external companies to talk to each other. By putting it into an external cloud and a relevant security strategy in place, that's allowed us to do that very quickly. We also have actually moved from one cloud provider to another during the life of Peace, and it took the entire move took about 2 to 3 weeks. We've also moved our internal data centers, and that took about 2 to 3 months. So there's a big difference and an advantage in trying to use cloud where you can. We also key content. And the content we're wanting to help people use is easy access to standards, documentation, policies, any toolkits, any guidance, any points of view that somebody's got about a particular usage of, say, Oracle or Microsoft or SQL Server could all be shared there. And then the last area is about education. Because we're quite dynamic, we're growing massively as an organisation, but we're also got peaks and troughs in our projects. Our third parties come on board. We want ways of quickly getting people started and ramp up. And we've seen that faster time for onboarding working well. We've started to experiment with gamification to get people to use that, and that's an area we're going to do a lot more work on. We've added gamification system to doing that. We're also looking at the innovation. I saw in Stuart's area there's a great bit about innovation, about how collaboration can drive innovation. We're doing a piece of work in our next financial year which is about maximising peace to drive innovation. So that's quite an exciting area. So to summarise, the areas that we focused on early, and I'll go through them. Profiles and communities. Communities is fantastic. It allows people to create a community. It's very interactive. It's very informal. They can build areas of interest. So special interest groups and such like that can create virtually in communities. And it's a big area we've used. Profiles obviously allows people to find out, well, who's this person who keeps asking me these questions? What do they do? Very useful. The area that we've used blogs for is for people to use it for points of view, or for senior people who may sit in what's perceived as an ivory tower somewhere in the US to share their views and thoughts about a subject with the guys on the ground in India and the UK and the rest of Europe. So we've used it for that point of view, and that's worked quite well. Bookmarks and activities, we're embedding that into our projects. We've run a number of very large delivery projects through formal project management systems. We use Project View. But we've used Peace to complement that so that we can link the activities that's there and drive meetings and minutes through Peace. And we've run a number of projects that way, including things like our graduate recruitment scheme recently. All the projects for that of gathering the information, producing the material, producing the interview notes, training for interviewers, attendance of universities, plans, has all been done in Peace. Because that's about recruiting staff as part of our development process. So we've used it in that way. And that allowed people to learn how to use Peace more for their actual development projects. Files and wikis, obviously really a good way to share knowledge and a good way to share files. This is informal file sharing. Because we're a regulated industry, all our formal file sharing has to be auditable and goes through our document management system. And forums are used for literally that. Let's have a discussion about something, and then let's make a decision as a team and record that decision. Areas we've not done a lot of work in is around tags and media, but we're looking at growing the media area as part of the education and training. So hopefully that gives you a feel of what we've used the technology for. The last point I'd make on it is we didn't write this. We bought it out of the box and installed it and used it. No customization at all to go live. And that was a major boost for us in allowing us to get benefits from day one. And that's an interesting area for us to approach. And I'm happy to explore that in the Q&A session if anybody wants to do that. So, and that's it. I'll be back to you.
Thank you very much, Andy. That was very interesting. Thanks to Stuart earlier for the introduction. Now I'd like to take us to a panel discussion, if you don't mind, on the subject of business case. Question of building a business case and return of investment always comes up when social collaboration initiatives are discussed. The questions range from what to measure and how to measure it, and should value be assessed only on changes to hard business KPIs, or are we looking for cultural change as the goal of our deployment? And if the latter is the case, how do we plan to measure that change? So I'd like to ask our speakers about this subject. As before, please submit any questions in the side panel of the webinar so that we can pick them up in the open forum. Perhaps I could start with Andy. I think your experience here that you've shared will be very informative. What issues did you find when building a business case for Peace? How did Parexel go about that?
I think one of the biggest challenges is people don't like to be told things, they like to be shown things. And I think when you build a business case, it's great if you've got a real example that you can show people in either something that somebody else has done or something that you can build as a prototype and explain to them how it's going to drive the benefits. Just listing benefits on a slide is fine, but do people believe that? And it's adding a little bit of value or quantifying those benefits, I think, is very key. I think if there are financial benefits, or you believe the financial benefits, then being able to prove that always gets people's interest. But in this particular area, most of this is around people working together better, smarter and cleverer, and it's around knowledge areas and sharing information and efficiencies from that side of it, rather than if you do this you're going to save this much money. So yes, people will do it and drive down email usage as an example, but putting a financial value on that is actually quite difficult, and probably difficult to prove that you've got it afterwards. So I think the big focus is think about show. What can I show somebody? What can I show them why this works? And also somebody else who's done it, who you can introduce, get a peer or somebody that the senior manager would respect, and get them to talk to them. That's always a good way of doing it.
So find a strong internal stakeholder who's slightly outside. You know.
And maybe an external stakeholder. It's quite easy to find out who your senior management are connected to on LinkedIn, and find out if there's any opportunities to help use their own network.
That's true. That's interesting. And if I can come to Stuart, because thank you, Andy. Stuart, you and I were talking about this the other day, about how the business case has evolved over time. I think we were recalling that it used to start with email. Do you think that's a reasonable observation? And where is business case development now, if you like, generally?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, in the early days, even in IBM, we did some of our early business cases were based on asking employees through a survey how easy was it to find experts, how easy was it to find information, then rolling some stuff out and measuring afterward to a pilot group, and then measuring afterwards whether they said it was easier through another survey. I think we've moved somewhat beyond that. We certainly do have customers as well as ourselves who measure is email traffic, is email volume falling. You tend to have to be a bit more sophisticated than that. I mean, the type of email, so and the number of attachments flowing around and the volume of content going that way falling because the conversation's happening somewhere else. That was kind of where we started, and I think that was many years ago. Today, the focus is very much on what's the business goal we're trying to achieve. The goals I talked about earlier. Are we trying to increase sales per sales rep, or reduce the time it takes to implement projects? And we can start to think about, certainly from a measuring perspective, we start to understand whether projects are being delivered faster, whether we are making innovative improvements to processes, but through these communities to measure things. And it's really about finding those successes, getting pilot groups going, finding the success stories, and then talking about the success stories are your primary way of selling the business value to other parts of the business. And then the last thing, which some companies do and works very well in some organizations, is that for a formal business case, you want to quantify the business benefit. So we do a process where we will go and sit with a business leader and just sit for 30 minutes and say, what are the problems? Why isn't your organization working the way you want it to? Then we go away and build, resonated what was just said, and build a visualization of what it would look like, a little video of what if people could work like this, take it back and get the business leader to articulate the value that that would provide if they had these extra tools available. Use that to build the business case. They think they could do things faster, or they could manage with less employees on a project or whatever. And it's their words which is then used to create a business case rather than something you're proposing to.
Yeah, I suppose the danger is we just look and see how we work today and then pave that cow path and end up doing the same things that we were doing before because we're justifying the deployment in a very kind of hard, typical system sort of way. And therefore, if you're not stepping back slightly from that, do you run the risk you're not taking advantage of innovation because you're just trying to do what you did before but slightly more efficiently?
Oh, absolutely. I was actually in Scotland presenting at Public Sector Scotland, one Public Sector Scotland last week, and John Swinney, is the Cabinet Minister for Finance, was there, and he talked at an event I was at about how the model for delivering government services should be. Absolutely. What has tended to be the focus is let's take something we do as a government and a program we roll out and use digital means to roll it out so we can roll it out cheaper. But you're still basically doing the same thing. His vision is, in the digital world, you turn the whole thing on its head. There's a citizen out there who needs services, and they reach into government for just the services they need, rather than having standardized programs that roll out everywhere. And each individual citizen gets a personalized set of services to match their needs. That's how marketing is currently starting to use digital. It's not about selling books cheaper because you do it in volume. It's about delivering each user to your website a unique experience that engages them and causes them to buy more. And I think that's true. That's exactly what I was talking about in innovating business processes. Once you get the basic engine there, and you may use some very crude metrics to get the business case to get started, where you really get the benefit is when you unleash the innovative potential of your employees.
Okay, so do you think if people are listening and thinking about business case, they need to think, I suppose, what in their particular domain is going to gain buy-in, if you like, from funders and their own people for work being better, easier to perform, more satisfying, as well as perhaps HROs saying, you know, I've got this thing, I want a more collaborative culture in my organisation, but I'm not relating that specifically to any particular line of business. So it's some sort of, you know, like a broader set of things informing the business case.
Yeah, I mean, I find HROs, chief HR officers are great promoters, supporters, and evangelists for this sort of thing. But the business case comes from finding a business problem with a business person with a headache or a problem they want to solve, demonstrating how you can solve it, and that gets you down the line of actually doing something rather than saying it would be good to do something.
And to your point about the vision, and I'll sort of get Andy a little bit in there because he talked about something people can see. Is that also about what they can do in the future as part of your business case as much as what might be better today?
Yeah, I think the art of the possible is a great thing, because you know, if you ask a blind man to describe red, he struggles really. And I think part of our role as the expertise in technology is to help the business see the art of the possible and understand, and not just expect them to know. I think one of the worst questions on any technology project, whether it be this or anything else, is can you tell me what the requirements are? Because people very rarely can do that. I think it's very important that you help them work out what they want and what they need, and the two things are different. I think it's exactly the same on this. Is you need to show them, you know, what the benefits are of mobile. They might say, well, I don't want to be, you know, doing anything on my phone, and then you'll see them 2 minutes later organising some party with their mates on Facebook. It's the same thing, and it's getting them to link the two areas together and being able to, particularly around consumer technology. I think the nice thing is a lot of this, they all use this and understand this in their everyday life because of consumer technology, and being able to link that to what you're trying to do, and therefore show them the art of the possible, and talk to them about what the great innovators in the world are doing in the consumer market, and getting them to link that to their business. I think is a fantastic way to do that.
And I suppose that you might, if you have from that an idea that if one of my challenges is a business case for improving onboarding effectiveness, so having people productive after 3 months rather than 6, if I can build a case around giving them tools they're already familiar with,
yes,
such as consumer tools, but applying those in an enterprise context, then I'm there. It's one of my things I'm going to do to get to that point.
And a good example of that is if you take in India, when we recruit in India, this can be quite long times before somebody's offered and accepts in India and joins us. Well, what's wrong with using collaboration and social tools like Facebook to start feeding them information so they can get onboarded quicker and faster? They don't have to wait for their corporate ID and their corporate logo. You know, link into the existing social network that they'll be using to it already. You know, and I think that it's just thinking a little bit out of the box and coming up with a few ideas, being able to demonstrate it. And even if the ideas you come up with are not perfect for the business, it'll trigger something and say, well, that won't work for us. However, we could do this. And that's what you're trying to get to, the engagement where somebody says, however, we could do this.
Yeah.
That's a very important link. You've got the business then.
That's a very good point. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, now that I'd like to go to questions from the audience. We've got a few questions here. I'll just summarise them because a couple of them cover the same sort of areas. This is one for Andy relating to the fact that you've got collaboration going across multiple countries and different cultures, how do you find that the impact of that has been on take up with peace?
The culture thing is really important. You do have to look at different cultures, and obviously through people on the phone who work in areas like in the subcontinent and India, you getting engagement and getting people to do that can be quite a challenge. That's why we've looked at areas like gamification. So we're looking at simple things like the thank you badge on gamification, where people can do something with somebody and then they can see that an individual has been thanked 20, 30 times. In a line manager can then look at that and say, well, this person is clearly being a good corporate citizen because they're doing that. You have to be careful that people don't get their mates to say thank you all the time. And, you know, there's an element of common sense about looking at the data that you have got and feeding it through. But it does allow you to drive the different motivations. So the motivations in different cultures have to take into consideration. So that is difficult, and you have to think about it. And you'll do some things in the US that just don't work in Europe or don't work in India, and it's vice versa. But usually large organizations like ours, we have groups of people who are experts in the different cultures around the world, and they educate us about how to behave and change our behavior when dealing with different cultures. You can then just apply the same logic to this. This is just a tool. Yes, there's principles that are still the same. So I think it depends on your organization. So having some help and using your cultural training to think about these tools is a good way to do it. So in our cultural training, there's a section specifically about email, because email is known and understood by our HR team. What you do here is you extend it to talk about collaboration tools and then build it into your cultural training that we all have to go through anyway.
That's very interesting. So local evangelism and an awareness of local culture.
Very important.
Accepting that the velocity may be different in different places.
I think having local champions is a really good one. If you've got local champions and people who will walk the floor and walk around the different offices and just help people, you know, the best way to use a virtual system is to use a physical system of walking and talking, I think, sometimes, as daft as it sounds. But, you know.
Thank you. That's an interesting answer. Thank you. Stuart, I've got a question here. I noticed, I've got some sympathy with it as well. I've noticed you've been blogging on local government and collaboration. What is the status of social collaboration inside government is the question, pretty general, but I'm just wondering if you've got some insights into that sort of topic.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I would have said this year particularly, almost half of the queries I get is coming from the public sector. I mean, not just government, but related agencies in the third sector. It's clearly a hot topic right now. I think we're coming, a couple of reasons for that. We're coming to a phase where collaboration, where cost savings and responding to the austerity measures within a particular department, within a particular budget holder is sort of, you've done that, you've got as far as you can, and the challenge is how do you drive further efficiencies, and the answer to that, I would suggest, is better collaboration across government. And similarly from the perspective of, well, how do you cope with the fact you have less people but more things to do, and higher expectations from the public because of social media, in fact they're talking to each other. And again, if you can extend collaboration beyond the silos so that you start to think about the broader, how can you use expertise from other parts of government, etc., is a key way of responding. So I think those ideas are driving interest there. I was actually talking to the CIO of a major government department only last week, and she said the biggest challenge they face is how a central government department collaborates with local government. Because there's multiple of them, and you can't really do it in a structured, organized way. You need a way to have your employees talking to the employees of the government. And I think that's the big challenge on the agenda right now.
So I seem to be losing Stuart, I think, a little bit there in terms of sound. But I think we got the gist of your answer. That's a very good one. Thank you very much. I think what I'd like to do now, if that's is to move to another question about the 3 takeaways we have to be about tips, which is good. And this, I think, is probably for both. We'll cover start with Andy. What are your 3 key takeaways for getting social collaboration to work, do you think? If I was writing down three bullets to take away today.
Have a clear use case that measure that, and then learn and adapt from that. And bold.
Be bold. That's a good one.
I know it sounds quite obvious, but people they overanalyze things and they think about things too much. And sometimes you're better off giving it a go, learning, not scared of failure, be bold, learn by that and move on. And because you will get some things wrong. I guarantee if you're implementing this for the first time, you're going to make mistakes. Don't worry about making mistakes. The way that we learn is by making mistakes.
You put quite a bit of stress on just, in this case, connection to technology SPs, and don't do too much to it.
I think that's a very good idea. I think if you can find a use case where a vanilla implementation will give you 70, 80% of the benefits, do that. Because it minimizes your expense. It allows you to know that it's not your bespoke elements that are causing the issues and problems because you're using out-of-the-box code. And the way I look at it, it depends what technology you're using. We use the IBM technology, so in my world is IBM employ a lot of developers and a lot of labs and a lot of testing. So if I can use that to give my business benefit, isn't that great?
Okay, thank you very much. Great insight. Thanks to everyone for their questions, and to Andy and Stuart for their great contributions. Now we'd like to share some more ideas on where you can go next to start your journey. Also need to talk a little bit about how we can help you get started. The social intranet is a cloud managed service or on-premise deployment designed to kickstart your intranet collaboration. In addition to the technology there, we have additional consulting services and options for customization, single sign-on, and enhanced business adoption. Business adoption is key, as I think you'll have learned from listening to Andy and Stuart talk today. From our experience with customers across many different industries, technology and business adoption themes are best considered together. Our consulting teams can help you assess both your technical and cultural readiness in workshops, and the workshops help you find the use cases and communities to first address with social collaboration, and also to work out the best path and rate of adoption for your organisation. We also help customers with technical questions, perform evaluation of cloud or on-premise hosting choices to see which flavour of the social internet suits your strategic direction for deployment. Is that a cloud skill today? Outside of the social internet, my collaboration services team provides help around messaging migration, commonly these days cloud-based platforms from IBM and Microsoft. And in addition to business options technical I mentioned earlier, we also work to help Notes Domino customers modernise their application portfolios and work on portal and web content management solution design and delivery for customers. Finally, I'd like to mention Portal has centres of excellence also in analytics and mobile. We focus very much on collaboration today, but you may also be familiar with the analytics webinar series. So to some useful links, thank you for sharing these, Stuart, in particular some links coming up, things to get you started and help you dig deep into the topic. The IBM White Paper on Social Business, what works and how it's done, it's a great review of many of the areas we've touched on today. And you'll also find in Stuart's blog a lot of great information about trends, so look out to Stuart's blog. If you're interested more generally in social business customer stories, and these are often useful in preparing business cases and looking for use cases for your own organisation, IBM has a good collection online, and if you want to get involved in the social business community, you can participate and learn from others there. And I think it's stressed that it's an organic, ongoing, and innovative process itself, adopting social business in your organisation. To recap, if you are ready to get started, take a look at our own social interest offering, which is I described earlier, and it's available from Portal. and finally some great links with valuable resources for further reading from Stuart. I won't go through them all, but I'd like to draw your attention to the Social Business Insights blog, which I find very valuable, and on a practical level, getting started. The link to the IBM Social Business Guidelines, a great template for any social business adopting organisation. How do I manage the fact that I am empowering my users to work out loud and to speak? Well, Social Business Guidelines is a great place to start there. So that's IBM being helpful to everybody and getting started with this journey. Well, thank you very much for attending, everybody, and to our speakers. I'd like to thank them once again for their time today and their contributions. The replay will be made available in the next 2 to 3 days, I think, and we'll send you an email with details early next week where you can experience it. And look out for the next webinar from Portal. With that, I'd like to thank everyone once again and close. Thank you very much for attending.